right, here we go.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated. All right, rebuttal arguments.
Hello? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Heard's counsel has mischaracterized the record multiple times, and Ms. Heard lied to you. They've mischaracterized the testimony of police officer Sines and Haddon, who explicitly testified that they saw no signs of injury and no property damage.
Oh man, I need to cook.
They mischaracterized the testimony of Walter Hamada, who testified clearly that there was no impact on Ms. Heard's career at Aquaman 2 from anything said by Adam Waldman or Johnny Depp. And Ms. Heard's casting was delayed because of creative issues. They've mischaracterized the testimony of Detective Sadaga. They mischaracterized the testimony of Ronald Schell. You've been here. You've listened to the testimony. You know the record. Ms. Heard lied, and she lied again, and she kept lying. She lied 6 years ago on May 27th, 2016, when she walked into court in Los Angeles to publicly accuse Mr. Depp of abuse for the first time. She lied again when she told the world over and over again that she donated all of the $7 million divorce settlement to charity. You heard the evidence about what she donated, and you watched her. You watched her try to save her lie about that broken promise with more lies on this stand in this courtroom. She lied again when she told the world in her op-ed on December 18th, 2018, that she was a public figure representing domestic abuse, painting herself as a representative of abuse survivors everywhere, and painting Mr. Depp as a representative of perpetrators. She's come too far. She can't back down. She's lied too many times to too many people. So when Mr. Depp finally decided to fight to clear his name by filing this lawsuit, Ms. Heard responded by making up more and more stories of more and more extreme abuse. She came up with a new accusation that Mr. Depp had raped her with a bottle in Australia. And she keeps making new claims up even now. At this trial, for the very first time, she claimed that she had been sexually assaulted the night of her 30th birthday, even though she had testified repeatedly about her birthday prior and never mentioned it. And at this trial, she also claimed for the very first time that Mr. Depp was hitting her all the time during the first year of their relationship, even though this first year, she had testified previously, was magic and bliss, with absolutely no violence. Her story is a constantly moving target. It never stays the same. Mr. Depp owns his mistake. He owns all of them. You saw him do it on the stand in a raw and powerful way. But in this trial, Ms. Heard has been confronted with her lies and the damage she has caused, and she cannot take any responsibility for what she has done. And you've seen the story, her story, it doesn't hold up. You've watched her performance on the stand. You saw her get caught in lie after lie. The time has come for those lies to come to an end. The time has come for you, the jury, to decide the truth. I started this trial giving you an opening statement, and I said to you that words matter. And this case is about Ms. Heard's words, the words she published in an op-ed about Mr. Depp. Ms. Heard and her attorneys have talked a lot about this, in this trial about the First Amendment. They've talked about the importance of free speech, and we agree. I'm a lawyer. Of course I agree with that. But the First Amendment doesn't protect lies that hurt and defame people. And there's a difference. Ms. Heard has no right to tell the world that Mr. Depp physically or sexually assaulted her when that isn't true. That's not protected speech. Our U.S. Constitution doesn't protect that speech. And it is a core value of American society that you are innocent until proven guilty. There is a presumption of innocence in this country. A person's life cannot and should not be destroyed by a baseless charge and no opportunity to defend yourself. That's why Mr. Depp had to bring this claim. Ms. Heard was never going to stop calling him an abuser. The only way to clear his name was to stand up in this court, where both sides are bound by the same rules of American law. A jury would be tasked, you, ladies and gentlemen, would be tasked with deciding once and for all Ms. Heard's lies could be exposed in a fair and impartial process. When Mr. Depp sued her, Ms. Heard apparently decided she needed to sue him back. And because there were no statements made by Mr. Depp on which she could base a claim, she sued him based on statements made by one of his lawyers, Adam Waldman, calling Ms. Heard's accusations of abuse a hoax. Make no mistake, though, they are a hoax. Ms. Heard made up claims of abuse, and then she gave a performance where she passionately repeated those made-up claims of abuse on the stand in front of each of you. But ask yourselves, who's really the one alleging a hoax here? Who wants you to believe that everyone else is lying, committing perjury?
Preparing.
Ms. Heard needs you to believe that all the people who showed up in this courtroom to testify on behalf of Mr. Depp, they're all lying. She needs you to believe that the witnesses you heard from, including security professionals, former cops, medical professionals, and police officers, they're all lying, covering up for Mr. Depp. She's asking you to believe that she's the one telling the truth and that the rest of the people in Mr. Depp's life are all part of a conspiracy of silence. This case is not just about whether you believe Mr. Depp or you believe Ms. Heard. This case is about whether you believe Ms. Heard or whether you believe Mr. Depp, Christy Dombrowski, who, yes, is here, supporting her brother. Isaac Baruch, who wept in front of the world. Keenan Wyatt, who doesn't work for Mr. Depp. Sean Betts, a former LA Sheriff's Department. Malcolm Connolly, he worked in the prisons in the UK. Starling Jenkins, a former US Marine. Travis McGivern, also another former police officer. Ben King, he worked for the Queen of England. David Kipper, Dr. David Kipper. Ms. Heard's doctor. And yes, Mr. Depp's doctor. Debbie Lloyd, a nurse. Aaron Filati, Ms. Heard's personal nurse. Officer Sines, an LA police officer with training in domestic violence. Officer Haddon, her understudy, yes, in his first week, studying to pick up on these signs of domestic abuse. Officer Gatlin, Brandon Patterson, who worked at Eastern Columbia Building. Kate James, Ms. Heard's former personal assistant. Tara Roberts. Alejandro Romero. He took his deposition from his car because he had to go to work, but it didn't stop him from telling the truth. Edward White, Mr. Depp's business manager. Laura Wasser, one of the most famous divorce lawyers in California. Morgan Knight. Beverly Leonard. Morgan Tremaine. And Kate Moss. And all the other witnesses whose stories support Mr. Depp's description of what took place. These people have nothing to gain by coming forward. They have everything to lose. You have seen Mr. Waldman's statements and evidence in this case. When you look at them, you can tell that the key point Mr. Waldman was making in each of these statements was simply that Ms. Heard's accusations against Mr. Depp were lies. That's why he talks about an abuse hoax. Now, Ms. Heard has the burden of proof of proving that Mr. Waldman's statements are false. And that means that Ms. Heard has to do more than prove that Mr. Waldman got some details wrong. She has to prove that Mr. Waldman's statements are false in their essential meaning. In other words, she has to prove that her abuse claims are not a hoax. But as we've seen, the evidence is overwhelming that Ms. Heard's claims of abuse are false. We should also spend a bit of time talking about actual malice. It is Ms. Heard's burden to prove that Mr. Waldman's statements were made with actual malice. And actual malice means knowledge that the statements were false or reckless, and that's an important word, reckless disregard for the truth. But here, there is clear evidence that Mr. Waldman genuinely believed that Ms. Heard had committed a hoax. You watched him give the testimony by deposition in this case. He testified about the evidence he found persuasive, the numerous witnesses and the sworn depositions of the police officers who went to the penthouses that night and again saw no injuries. There is no evidence in this record, none, that Mr. Waldman acted with actual malice. He believed Mr. Depp. He believed the record. It's also important to understand that because Mr. Waldman's statements were not made by Mr. Depp, Ms. Heard needs to prove that Mr. Waldman was acting as Mr. Depp's agent. And within the scope of that agency, within the scope of the agency of the employment, when he made the statements, Mr. Waldman is a lawyer. Ms. Heard has not presented evidence that making those statements was part of Mr. Waldman's responsibilities as Mr. Depp's lawyer. There's nothing in the record. Ms. Heard is also claiming to be suffering from PTSD and claims that she has something to do with Mr. Waldman's statements. Ms. Heard wants you to believe that she suffers from PTSD because Mr. Depp purportedly abused her. But as usual, Ms. Heard is not telling the truth. As you heard from Dr. Shannon Curry, Ms. Heard does not have PTSD. She does not act like a person with PTSD. Ms. Heard is an actress in a major film, involved in sommelier training. She just had a baby. Dr. Curry also found that Ms. Heard attempted to grossly exaggerate her symptoms during testing, which is a sign of malingering, or said differently, of Ms. Heard lying. Ms. Heard hired Dr. Don Hughes to help her with this narrative. Dr. Hughes did not catch Ms. Heard's exaggeration during testing because Dr. Hughes used an improper malingering screen test. She wasn't going to find it. One that is meant to identify an examinee's attempt to fake a severe mental illness.
Look how
or
she's
psychosis.
smiling. She's giving
Not
herself away.
PTSD.
Look at that.
Dr. Hughes diagnosed Ms. Heard with PTSD without administering the gold standard diagnostic test used for PTSD. She diagnosed her, think about that, she diagnosed her with PTSD before administering the test she admitted was the gold standard. 2 years after diagnosing Ms. Heard with PTSD, and shortly after Dr. Curry administered the gold standard diagnostic test in her evaluation of Ms. Heard, but before it was disclosed, Dr. Hughes decided to administer the gold standard. Finally. Nevertheless, even after Dr. Hughes used the proper test, there were a number of deficiencies in her administration of that test. You saw them, including her failure to even follow the instructions that render her diagnoses unreliable. Ms. Heard's claim for monetary damages related to Mr. Waldman's statements, frankly, it's a fantasy. Ms. Heard speculates wildly that she has somehow been damaged by Mr. Waldman's statements. But in reality, Ms. Heard has not shown any damage at all that was because of or by Mr. Waldman's statements. There is evidence of a mountain of negative press coverage about Ms. Heard, including press reports about her defecating in Mr. Depp's bed, cutting off his finger, and putting out a cigarette on his face. But none of that has anything to do with Mr. Waldman's statements. And Ms. Heard has presented no evidence, none, of any film or other project that she has lost because of the statements. In fact, you heard from Warner Brothers president, Walter Hamada, who explained that Ms. Heard suffered no loss, none. No loss of compensation or other adverse effect on her major film, Aquaman 2. You heard it straight from him. Ms. Heard's expert, Catherine Arnold, testified, but for the statements from Mr. Waldman, Ms. Heard would be much more successful in her career.
Ma chi l'ha
To form this opinion, Ms. Arnold compares
Che la
Ms.
fa
Heard to
cagare come
actors such
attrice?
as
Ma è un cazzo
Jason
di
Momoa the actual Aquaman, Chris Pine, Gal Gadot, and Zendaya. But as Richard Marx, who does deals every day, that's his job, not testifying here for a paycheck, does deals in Hollywood, and Doug Banya both testified that these actors are simply not comparable to Miss Heard. After all, Jason Momoa, he was Aquaman. Chris Pine, he was Captain Kirk. Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman. Zendaya, she's been acting since she was 13 years old on the Disney Channel. And she's in every single Spider-Man movie. Further, the Q scores of these actors are not at all comparable with Miss Heard's Q scores. As Mr. Banya testified, Miss Heard's rating was less compared to these actors, and all of Miss Heard's Q scores ratings were less favorable than the average of all performers. As you heard from Michael Spindler, because Miss Arnold relies on the salaries of these comparable actors to calculate Miss Heard's damages, Miss Heard's claim for damages makes no sense. There's no connection. Further, and more fatally for Miss Heard's damages claim, is that there's no connection to the Waldman statements, to Mr. Waldman's statements. Even if you find damage to her career, you have to connect it to the defamatory statements. There is no connection. Mr. Banya testified that all the negative tweets that Miss Heard has entered into evidence have no causal connection to the statements underlying Miss Heard's counterclaims. Specifically, Miss Heard's expert, Mr. Ron Schell, presented a flawed methodology that included picking out hashtags at random, including justice for Johnny Depp. What does that have to do with the Waldman statements? And counting accompanying tweets, even though it had nothing to do with Mr. Waldman.
I love that. I love that they
Ms.
managed
Heard's
to say in
counterclaim is
court,
based on
justice for
statements
Johnny
by Mr.
Depp.
Waldman,
Yes.
not Mr. Depp.
They need to know that
Ms.
the
Heard
word
knows perfectly well
on his side.
that she hasn't suffered any damages from those statements. Buried at the bottom of articles in a mere tabloid, the Daily Mail. And the statements are substantially true, since all they do really is point out that Ms. Heard's abuse allegations are false. Ms. Heard's counsel argued that Ms. Heard did not write the title of the online version of the op-ed, which stated, "I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change." It does not matter whether or not Ms. Heard wrote the title. You will recall from the court's instructions this morning that what matters is whether Ms. Heard republished the defamatory language. That instruction states in part that you should find Ms. Heard republished this article if she, quote, retransmitted the defamatory material with the goal of achieving a new audience. Stated differently, republication occurs when the speaker has affirmatively, that's important, affirmatively reiterated the statement. Ms. Heard affirmatively reiterated the statement. She posted it on her Twitter. If we could please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 3. This is the tweet Ms. Heard sent. She retweeted the Washington Post tweet to a new audience, her own Twitter followers. And she affirmatively reiterated the statement by proudly declaring, "Today I published this op-ed in the Washington Post." She didn't quibble with the title. She said proudly, "Today I published this op-ed in the Washington Post." The title of the op-ed was prominently displayed in the tweet. That is enough for you, members of the jury, to find that Ms. Heard republished the title of the op-ed and adopted the statement as her own. She can and should be held liable and responsible for that statement.
Thank you, Patricia.
Ms. Heard tries to make something out of the fact that Mr. Waldman reported her to law enforcement in Los Angeles for perjury after her allegations of abuse were made against Mr. Depp. But I'll submit to you that all this proves is that Mr. Waldman believes Ms. Heard has committed perjury. Mr. Ronborn argued that the lack of supporting evidence for Ms. Heard's allegations of horrendous, constant abuse is somehow not something to be considered. That it is shameful for you to consider the fact that she didn't document all the terrible injuries that she claims to have suffered. That is a twisted argument. First, you know, because you have seen and listened to Ms. Heard in action, that Ms. Heard is a woman who's documenting things throughout their relationship. And it is instructive that the things she chose to document had nothing to do with violence. She documented Mr. Depp sleeping. She documented lines of cocaine, featuring prominently Mr. Depp's loan-out company or production company, Infinitum. Stage photographs, that's what she documented. Mr. Rottenborn's entire argument assumes that Mr. Depp, a man, should be disbelieved because despite the fact that Ms. Heard can't support her accusations with actual evidence. What we have put to you, the jury, is not that because Ms. Heard didn't take enough pictures or tell people about abuse that it didn't happen. What we have put to you is that given how brutal and constant the abuse Ms. Heard claims, she would have had serious injuries. That's a fact. She would have had serious injuries that would have been observable in the pictures we looked at and by the witnesses we heard from, and would have required medical attention. That's it.
Cameron,
Ms. Heard
it's my
testifies to
pleasure.
injuries that multiple people didn't see.
Thank you for the super chat.
What you have in the end is Ms. Heard's word. Do you trust it? We are not here because Ms. Heard told the world Mr. Depp was verbally abusive. This is not about the words used by Mr. Depp. We are here because Ms. Heard told the world that Mr. Depp was physically and sexually abusive. That's what Ms. Heard was saying in the op-ed.
Rottenborn, jag
On May
hittar
27th, exactly 6 years ago today, 2016, Ms. Heard walked into court with a mark on her face to tell the world that her husband was abusive. She renewed that falsehood in her op-ed, describing herself as a public figure representing domestic abuse. And she published the op-ed, including the title, claiming that she spoke up against sexual violence. Everyone knew who she was talking about when she used those words. She was alleging physical and sexual abuse. She was not alleging emotional or psychological abuse. She was alleging physical and sexual abuse.
Exactly.
Ms. Heard cannot run away from her own allegations now. You have all heard the evidence of what she alleged against Mr. Depp in 2016. And you have all heard her incredibly dramatic, over-the-top story of physical and sexual abuse. That story was a defamatory lie.
Ganda Munitz.
Ms. Heard tried to argue that you only need to find that Mr. Depp might have touched Ms. Heard once in order to find in her favor, because that makes her a victim of abuse. But common sense should tell you that you can't pick and choose Ms. Heard's allegations. You saw her on the stand. We all did. She gave the performance of her life,
Yes.
telling you story after story of abuse. And not just any abuse, but extravagant, over-the-top allegations of abuse that would be truly brutal, horrific, if true. You either believe all of it, or you believe none of it. Either she's telling the truth, including in her most extreme allegations, or she's lying.
Poor Johnny. Poor John. He's
Either
suffering
she was
through
raped
this.
by a bottle, or she's the sort of person who would get on the stand in this courtroom
Poor Johnny.
and lie to you and the world about being raped. And if she would lie about that, what wouldn't she lie about? You
Don't
can't
pretend to
find
cry.
that Mr. Depp hit her once. Either he hit her
Look at
countless
that.
times,
She saw
or you can't
Johnny
believe a single
and she
word
copies.
that comes out of her mouth. And what is the actual meaning of Ms. Heard's op-ed? That's an important question.
Non fare finta
It's not
di
that Mr.
piangere,
Depp
dai.
said a nasty word to
Non
her
fa
once.
bere.
It's not that Mr.
Che
Depp
così
might
non
have hit
latrino.
her once.
Yeah.
It's that she is a representative of domestic abuse. And by extension, Mr. Depp is a representative of abuse perpetrators. Words matter. Ms. Heard has shown you a lot of text messages from Mr. Depp with some very vivid language. As I told you at the start of this trial, Mr. Depp has a unique style of writing. He uses words I don't use. and you probably don't use either. But as you also heard during this trial, Mr. Depp writes in that way, in part because he modeled his writings on literary giants like Hunter S. Thompson. And he's got a dark sense of humor. It's not everyone's cup
Now
of tea,
she's smiling, eh?
but it's who he is. And Mr. Depp owns text messages. He acknowledges that he said those things, and he said things that he shouldn't have. But using bad language and colorful humor does not mean that you are a violent abuser. And ironically, as much as Ms. Heard is trying to use Mr. Depp's words against him, it is Ms. Heard who repeatedly admitted to violence. In her own words, you've heard the tapes. You've heard her admit to violence. Ms. Heard can try to distract you with text messages showing that Mr. Depp uses bad language and has a dark sense of humor. But none of that, I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, none of that is evidence of abuse. Hitting your husband is evidence of abuse.
Exactly. She's
Mr. Ronborn
outraged.
talked about the burden of proof.
She's outraged
Let's talk
when
about
the
that for
same
a minute.
medicine it's applied
Mr.
to
Depp only
her
has to show that it is
from
more
JD
likely
lawyers.
than not.
She can't stand it.
More likely than not that the
And
statements
she
in
comes
the op-ed
out
are false.
with the smirk.
That it is more likely than not that they have a defamatory implication. That it is more likely than not that Ms. Heard designed and intended the statements to refer to Mr. Depp. And the evidence on these points is clear. Ms. Heard made these allegations 6 years ago today, May 27th, 2016. She went out of her way to make them public, tipping off TMZ. When she published the op-ed, she was reminding everyone in Hollywood and the world of her abuse claims. And those claims are a lie. Consider what the true purpose of the article. Mr. Ronborn said it was to promote legislative reforms. But what was it actually? The evidence shows it was to promote Ms. Heard. It was timed to be released at the same time as Aquaman on December 21st, 2018. And it was timed to coincide with her announcement of her ambassadorship at the ACLU for women's rights. That's not a coincidence. It was designed that way. That was not a statement about legislative reforms. This was about burnishing Ms. Heard's reputation at the expense of Mr. Depp's. It was about Ms. Heard continuing to portray herself as a heroic survivor of abuse. And on the question of actual malice, that just means whether or not Ms. Heard knew the allegations were false. Ms. Heard knows perfectly well that she wasn't abused. She has direct knowledge of that. She was in that relationship. So actual malice is easily established. You may have noticed that no one showed up for Ms. Heard in this courtroom other than her sister. Every other witness who traveled to Virginia for her was a paid expert. This is a woman who burns bridges. Her close friends don't show up for her. Mr. Rottenborn tried to discredit Mr. Depp's witnesses by suggesting they're all on Mr. Depp's payroll. So he doubled down on the hoax theory, that everyone's just lying. First of all, it's not even true Keenan Wyatt is on his payroll. Ben King isn't on his payroll. Officer Melissa Sines isn't on his payroll. Morgan Tremaine isn't on his payroll. Officer Tyler Haddon, he's not on his payroll. Beverly Leonard, Alejandro Romero, Brandon Patterson, Morgan Knight. None of those people are on his payroll. And Kate Moss is most definitely not on Mr. Depp's payroll.
Take that, you
Ms.
piece
Heard
of
wants you to
human
believe
filth.
that all these people are lying. Let's talk about the Boston plane. Ms. Heard wants you to believe that the recording you heard is from the Boston plane flight. But that's quite telling. What did Ms. Heard capture of this supposed rampage? Mr. Depp moaning in distress? That's what she chose to record. What sort of person records something like that? What sort of person takes pictures of their husband or boyfriend or fiance who's struggling with sobriety, nodding off with ice cream dripping down his leg, his hand in his pocket? or asleep on the ground. What sort of person does that? Definitely not someone that's afraid of him.
Exactly.
And Ms. Heard's attorney told a story of
speak
May
for all
21
of us.
that was completely,
Not somebody that
utterly
is afraid of him.
inconsistent with the testimonies of Officers Sines and Haddon, who testified clearly that they saw no signs of injury, no sign of property damage. And she told a story about how Officer Sadanaga's, I'll get that right, Sadanaga's testimony was also wrong. She testified that the report was only required in case of a crime. Ms. Heard's attorneys tried to tell you that Mr. Depp apologized on May 22nd because he had hit Ms. Heard. Mr. Depp didn't apologize to Ms. Heard on May 22nd for hitting her. He apologized because he was leaving Ms. Heard. And this was a woman that, in spite of all her violence and all her rage, Mr. Depp, he loved her. He had been with her for years. Of course he apologized when he finally broke it off. Ms. Bredehoff also tried to tell you that Ms. Heard did everything in her power to keep the authorities away and to not get Mr. Depp in trouble on May 21st, 2016. Take a minute and think back to what Ms. Heard did 6 days later, 6 years ago today. She walked into court with a visible mark on her face, not wearing makeup that day. She tipped off TMZ, she made it public, and she showed up on the cover of People magazine with a mark on her face. Was that protecting Mr. Depp? Or was she trying to destroy him? Mr. Rottenborn asked you to consider why you're here. So why are you here? You're here because of a lie. And that was a lie that Ms. Heard repeated in the op-ed. At the start of this trial, we told you that this trial is about the evidence. The evidence overwhelmingly shows that Ms. Heard is an abuser and that she is a liar. She lied about Mr. Depp and took on the role of a lifetime as a public figure representing domestic abuse. What is her best evidence of that abuse? A video of Mr. Depp banging cabinets around, and text messages of Mr. Depp using bad words and dark, ugly humor, but never once admitting to abuse. Pictures of Mr. Depp sleeping. That's her best evidence. Ms. Heard herself, Ms. Heard held herself out to the world as a representative of abuse survivors everywhere, the face of the Me Too movement. This is not a Me Too situation. There are no Me Toos, just not me's. Ms. Heard does not deserve to be known as a representative of survivors of abuse, and Mr. Depp does not deserve to be known as a representative of perpetrators of abuse. That is what this case is about. It's not about money. It's about giving Mr. Depp his life back 6 years ago when she took it away. While you deliberate, ask yourselves why Mr. Depp would put himself through this. Expose every embarrassing detail of his life on national television. If he was guilty of anything that Ms. Heard accuses him of. We ask you, we implore you, to render a verdict to Mr. Depp. We ask you to set the record straight, that he is not the abuser she described, and that she is not the heroic survivor she portrayed. And we ask you to tell Ms. Heard that what she did was wrong. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. Rebuttal closing?
Da ovdje su Rottenborn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank God they only have 6 minutes. Mother of God. I'm gonna put the fucking timer.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's interesting that in both their opening and their rebuttal closing, that you heard Mr. Depp's attorneys address none of Ms. Heard's witnesses. None of Ms. Heard's witnesses. They listed their own, who didn't see, who are on his payroll, weren't there behind closed doors with him, but they didn't address any of the witnesses. For example, Josh Drew, Rocky Pennington, Liz Mars, who were all there on May 21st, Melanie Iglesias, who covered Ms. Heard's bruises. They say that no one
All
showed
leeches.
up for her. No one showed up
All
for her, but then they say that
leeches.
these people aren't
Leeching
friends
off
anymore.
the
They're
man.
not friends anymore. Then
You
why would they
pile
be
of
doing
scum.
what they would suggest are lying for her? Why would they be corroborating everything that she says? It's this simple. If you believe
You have
that Depp was
nothing.
abusive to Amber one time ever, in any of the various forms of abuse, not only physical, verbal, emotional, psychological, sexual, any of the ways of abuse, then your job is very easy. And you can not only deny Mr. Depp's claim, but you can fine for Amber on her counterclaim. And it's interesting that Ms. Vasquez just changed their theory after 6 weeks. She said, oh, well, domestic abuse just means physical abuse. It's not what Mr. Depp said. It's not what Dr. Curry said. It's not what Dr. Hughes said. It's not what you know.
Yes,
to be
but
true.
you piece
You
of
know
shit,
that the
you're
evidence that
here
you've seen
because you
constitutes
accused him
all sorts
of
abuse.
rape
There's a reason
and
that
physical
they're running
abuse.
as fast as they can from those sorts of abuse because they know that he did it.
What a
Now, the suggestion
pile
that
of
Amber's
scum.
abuse allegations are a hoax is
Oh my
vicious
God.
and vile. Mr. Depp can say whatever he wants now, but he can't change the evidence that you've seen at the trial. The evidence shows that Ms. Heard did not commit abuse hoaxes. Not about sexual violence, not about May 21st, 2016, and certainly not about Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman's catch-all, all-purpose statement that Ms. Heard's abuse hoax, which suggests that every one of her allegations are false, that that's coming to an end. The evidence shows she did not commit any of those hoaxes. The evidence shows that she was abused exactly how not only she, but her witnesses supporting her claims say that she was. And their witnesses, even, who claim that Mr. Depp abused her. Ms. Vasquez talked about actual malice. She says because Mr. Waldman was acting as Mr. Depp's agent, you have to look at Mr. Waldman. They're standing in the shoes of one another. And as Mr. Depp's agent, Mr. Depp's malice is Mr. Waldman's malice. Mr. Depp's malice is Mr. Waldman's malice. He acted with actual malice when he made these statements. Now, after years and years of Mr. Depp controlling the roles that Ms. Heard took, Ms. Heard had the biggest hit of her career 3 months before she was sued. She had withstood Mr. Depp's attempt to have her fired from Aquaman and his own jealousy as his career went down the drain before her op-ed for reasons having nothing to do with Ms. Heard. But once the lawsuit against Ms. Heard was filed, his campaign that he promised to destroy her entered a new phase. And then it reached a crescendo when Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman decided to meet with the Daily Mail together and decide to plant statements that were defamatory of Ms. Heard in the spring of 2020, leading up to the UK trial. You've heard Amber and her agent, Jessica Kovacevic, talk about the impact to Amber's career. She can't get hired because of the negative treatment she gets. Studios like her, co-stars like her, she tests well, but she can't get opportunities because of the negativity associated with Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman. You heard Amber Heard on the stand yesterday telling you exactly what she has experienced as a result of Mr. Depp's promise to bring her global humiliation. That promise, to paraphrase Catherine Arnold, Ms. Heard's damages expert, that promise was a spark. And that promise he kept because he had told her again and again, the only way out of this is death. And when she chose a different path out of it, he decided to make that promise. He decided to throw that spark. And when Mr. Waldman became involved, that spark became a forest fire. That forest fire has continued to this day. We ask, ladies and gentlemen, that you hold Mr. Depp accountable for his actions. Stand up for victims of domestic abuse everywhere who suffer in silence. Stand up for the freedom of speech, the freedom to speak about your life that the First Amendment protects. Give Amber Heard her voice back.
Ma se non sei mai
Give Amber Heard
she never shut
her
up.
life back.
She never shut up in those
Thank you
years.
so much for your service on this.
Just go freaking sit down.
Thank you, Mr.
joke.
Rottenborn. Members of the jury, this is an important case to both the plaintiff and the defendant. In order to reach a verdict, each of you must agree on that verdict. In other words, your verdict must be unanimous. The first thing you should do when you go back to the jury room is to select a presiding juror. The role of the presiding juror is to see to it that the deliberations are conducted in an orderly and businesslike manner, that they are conducted only in the jury room when all the members of the jury are present, and that each juror has the opportunity to fully and fairly express his or her views. It is rarely helpful for jurors upon first entering the jury room to take a straw vote, or for any juror to make an emphatic expression of his or her opinion in the case, or to announce a determination to stand for a certain verdict. To do so before all jurors have had an opportunity to consult with one another and exchange views and opinions might allow your sense of pride to prevent you from retreating from an announced position, even when shown that such position is unsound. You have a duty to consult with one another and to deliberate with the objective of reaching an agreement, if it can be done without offending your individual judgment. Each of you must decide this case for yourself, but only after an impartial consideration of the evidence with your fellow jurors. In the course of deliberation, a juror should not hesitate to re-examine his or her views and change his or her opinion if convinced it is an error. However, none of you should surrender your honest conviction as to the weight or effect of the evidence solely because of the opinion of your fellow jurors or for the mere purpose of returning a verdict. In the jury room, you will have the exhibits that were entered into evidence. You will also have the instructions of law that I just read to you, and you will have the verdict forms. You'll also have a laptop, and that laptop will have just 2 files on it, and Deputy Lusa will set it up for you in the jury room. One is the plaintiff's files for audio and video files, and one's the defendant's files for audio and video files, and you'll be able to hear and watch those as well, the ones that were submitted into evidence. During your deliberations until you are discharged from jury service, you must not communicate with or provide any information to anyone who is not a member of this jury by any means about this case. You may not use any electronic device or media to conduct any independent research about this case, the legal or factual issues in the case, and the individuals or attorneys involved in the case. You are not permitted to consult dictionaries or reference materials, search the internet, visit websites or blogs, or use any other tools to obtain information about this case or to help you decide the case. Do not try to find out information from any source outside of the testimony and the exhibits received as evidence during the trial. You will also have, I know the attorneys discussed briefly about the verdict forms. You'll have 2 sets of verdict forms, one for Mr. Depp's case and one for Ms. Heard's case, okay? Now, when you have these verdict forms, the first 3 pages of both verdict forms have each of the statements separately. Okay, so when you're going through it, you're going to look at each statement separately and answer the questions that are on the page, okay? Now, if you decide yes for every question for a statement, then that's when you go to the last page of the verdict form, which is for damages. So, for example, if you find yes for all of statement 1, then you could go to 4 and 5 for damages. If you find yes for all of statement 1 and statement 2, you still go to 4 and 5 for damages. If you say yes for statement 1, statement 2, and statement 3, you obviously go to 4 and 5 for damages. If you answer no on any of the pages for any of the statements, you don't go to 4 and 5, okay? So that will be for all of them. And then when you do come to a verdict, make sure the foreperson signs it and dates it, and then just let the deputy know about that, okay? All right, now, for the tough part. You may remember at the beginning of this case, I told you we would randomly select 4 people to be the alternates, okay? We still have 2 alternates left, and the numbers were placed in an envelope from the very beginning of the case. So let me just say before I release the alternates that I know that this trial has been a huge sacrifice for all of you, and I have taken, and you've taken away from your life for weeks on end here. And I know I speak for all of us associated with the case, and I want to thank you for your service in this matter. I know how hard it is to come this far and then not get a chance to deliberate, but that does not lessen the respect and admiration that we have for you. As an alternate, you will not deliberate, but you are still under order of this court not to do any outside research in this case or to talk to anyone about this case at this time, and you're still under your oath as a juror. That is because if something happens to a juror during deliberations, I will call you back for service, and you will join the deliberations, and they'll start again, and you'll be part of the jury. So you are under these restrictions and your oath until a verdict is reached. We will contact you once this has occurred, and then you'll be free from your obligations, okay? But again, thank you for your service, all right? So in this matter, the alternate jurors are juror number 3 and 14, all right? At this time, those jurors are excused, and also the remaining jurors can retire now to the jury room to begin their deliberations, okay? So thank you all, okay?
Hey, what happened? Come on, man, don't freeze. I want to know what the judge is saying. Come on. Oh, Mother of God. Oh, you son of a piece of a fucking... Sorry. Oh, you're stupid. Stupid.
Thank the attorneys and litigants for the kindness and the great demeanor you've shown to my staff and to the courthouse staff and to the deputies in the sheriff's department. I really appreciate it. It means a great deal to me, okay? And I also appreciate Judy because she's a rock star, okay? So, yes, thank you. Oh. Well, that's a first, okay.
Your staff and the deputies have been absolutely phenomenal all over.
Ellen, shut up. Nobody wants to hear you anymore, Ellen. Just leave.
All right. All right.
That is one thing on which, Ms. Preda-Hofton, we respectfully agree. Completely agree. Completely agree.
Well, good. I'm glad on the last day we finally have an agreement.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're very grateful. Thank you.
You want to approach? Sure.
Rottenborn. Oh man, I think that if it was up to the judge, to choose this, probably this thing would have already finished a long time ago. Oh man, I don't know what it's happening. I think like they're in purpose, I don't know, like something is happening with them, it's not with us. Whew, can you imagine 1.2 million people are watching the stream? Do you realize that? I think there is nothing 1.2 million on their channel, and then of course, you know, like we're watching on, you know, 5,000, 10,000 on me, 100,000 on another YouTuber, 20,000 on another YouTuber, 50,000 on another news channel. Like there's literally millions of people tuned in to this. But I'm so upset they just went to like this. This is really upsetting me. Oh man. Well, Rottenborn in the end got a little bit lost finally. And the closure of Camille was good. I mean, in the end of the day, you have to remember that the whole thing that I have to choose, to my understanding, it's either where he was defamed or she was defamed, you know, because the Waldman statement affected her. So all the other theater in between of the abuse, and it's all like theater. It's just theater to convince the people that was, you know. So whew, oh my God. Hey, exactly. Why only 300 likes? Well, I have restarted the stream again because I thought, let me change the thumbnail. Otherwise, we don't get, Yes, guys, by the way, hit the like. We're almost 1,000 likes. Or subscribe if you want. You know that I really enjoy if you subscribe. The more the better. I've never been this nervous in my life, honestly. I've never been so nervous in my life in the recent years. I mean, to have this thing, and we know the truth. We are not crazy. I mean, we are not crazy. Literally millions of us. We are not crazy. It feels like when you listen to Rottenborn and when you listen to Elaine, it feels like, when you listen to AH on the stand, we feel like we're crazy. Feels like literally that we are going nuts because it doesn't look like we are questioning our own sanity. But we have seen all of those things, and it's really beyond the bias that people can have for an actor like Johnny Depp, It's really beyond the bias. I'm a fan of Johnny Depp, but not to the extent where I check what he's doing every week or every month. You know what I mean? Like, I don't do that for basically no one. But I got so interested when I discovered this whole video of this guy, Incredibly Average. And I didn't know what happened, about the allegation. I didn't know about those things. But when I saw that, I thought, oh wow, this is more. This is more than I thought it was. And then you start to see it, and then it really reveals itself to you in the way that you understand. It's like, oh wow, this guy really went through hell and back in this relationship, And it's all there, actually, the evidence. Rottenborn is such a pathetic human being of actually even trying to cover the lie of that miserable human being, the other human being, the third person. Because all these
emotional abuse by Ms. Heard during their relationship. And
when
their relationship
is just
was
a repeat.
over, Ms. Heard inflicted the greatest and cruelest injury of all. She publicly and falsely named Mr. Depp as the abuser.
Okay, just a sec. We just heard this. I just wanted to say, I can also replay it if you want, but it's so obvious that only her sister is there. Rottenborn was such a silly person to try to bring, like her friends into the equation, like they helped her. Their friends, they were forced probably to come one more time through video link. And some of them, they don't even speak anymore with her. After they leached for years from Johnny Depp. Can you imagine? Like, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This woman has no sign of post-traumatic stress disorder. She just pretended a little bit on command her emotions, But we all know the truth. We all know. We can now see through her lies, And I personally don't care about the money, like whether Johnny gets awarded money or not. But I definitely hope she doesn't get awarded one freaking cent. Because she's just truly, truly the lowest denominator of human expression.
What could be a very interesting day. So let me get first impressions, Karen, of the closings, and we're gonna sprinkle them in throughout. But so far, what do you think?
I was very impressed with Camille Vasquez's presentation. I thought that she did a great job. I understand from the reporters at the scene in Fairfax, Virginia, Antoinette Levy, that the jury was actually smiling when she came forward, when Camille came forward. So that was interesting. And I just thought that both attorneys for Johnny and both attorneys for Amber did a good job. It's up in the air. I think that they both scored points. They both did a great job. So it'll be interesting to see who was the most persuasive in the jury's eyes.
Yeah, I agree that I think they did both do a good job. Very different styles, and obviously, I believe, Mitra, disagree or not, that one side, the Depp side, maybe had better facts to play with, but their presentation, although very thorough, and they got it all in time, a little more scripted, literally, whereas the Amber Heard attorneys were a little more free-flowing. But again, if you take that apart and just look at the facts they had to deal with, I think the Depp team had better facts. What do you think?
Well, first off, what a trip down memory lane for those of us who've been following this for 6 weeks now, and I'm sure the jury feels the same. They both did a great job of really honing in on the evidence and the testimony that supported their story. So they painted.
Can you imagine that third person being paid to speak at events? Can you imagine the irony of life? Can you imagine the scum? Can you imagine, like, truly the betrayal for honesty, of that woman getting paid to speak to people of domestic abuse? Rottenborn, you have to feel sorry that your face is shown, honestly, because you cannot walk anywhere around now. You gotta stay home at least for a year before people forget your stupid smug face. You are on the wrong side of history. Oh my God. By the way, I'm making jokes here just in case. I'm a sort of comedian after all. We're doing entertainment. No, R89, I get that. Don't get me wrong. I get fired up, Then when I come down, I understand. You have lawyers. That's what lawyers are for. That's why, like, mobs, criminals, they hire the best lawyers, and sometimes they get out of trouble. You know what I mean? So that's what you hire those shark lawyers for. I get that. But, for me, like many of you out there, it's like truly a morality question. It's like, it's so obvious that this woman, it's a freaking manipulator, narcissistic psychopath or sociopath, that it's probably diagnosable time and time again with mental conditions, and she will go to any length to ruin other people in order to achieve her goals. That's what they do. That's why the stories, they became more embellished, outlandish, and always more. And she will, like, I just can't do this anymore, It's obvious. It's so obvious. And again, we don't want nothing of this, like us watching, hoping for Johnny Depp to win. At the end, we don't care about this woman. We never did. 99.99% of people, they didn't even know this person who she was. We don't hate her. I don't hate her. Certainly I don't hate her. I wish I didn't know she existed. True. I wish I didn't know Rottenborn existed. True. Very much true. It will take me a while to cleanse my spirit from the energy of knowing of their existence. But eventually, with a little bit of meditation and kale juice or something, I will manage to reach that objective again. Okay? But I have no hatred. None whatsoever. Matter of fact, I always hope that people, as long as they are not psychopathic killers, they manage to find a way to heal. But this is too much. This is just too much. This is just too much lies. A person like that, like, it's totally oblivious from recognizing the absurdity of their behavior. They just won't manage. They just are incapable of seeing themselves. That's how they are. I mean, I told this story before. I saw that everybody was telling me, hey, look at this documentary on Netflix, Tinder Swindler, right? everybody was telling me like, hey, you gotta watch that documentary, you gotta watch that documentary. I never watched the documentary, but by chance I ran, I think, either on social media, either on Instagram or TikTok. I ran on the because I saw who this guy was. I got curious, so I just Googled his face, you know, and something like that. So I think I found this guy that was doing some lives either on TikTok or on Instagram, right? And I literally just for the first time heard him talk for a moment, right? I swear to the universe, I didn't even watch the documentary, and I could tell you that that guy is a pathological narcissist. Just, boom. I was like, this guy just did everything he did. You know what I mean? So those people, and I was listening to this guy, and this guy, like any narcissistic, you know, person will do, was blaming everybody, just continuing running with their delusional story that some people will still fall for it. That's how sad this is for this type of people. This is how sad it is, you know? And this is also how sad it is for this woman. She will just continue because they don't have a shred of accountability. They just don't see it. You just have to hope you never meet somebody like that, ever. Alright. Thank you so much for the super chat. Yeah, we have to take care of our spirits. We have to take care of ourselves. That's the most important thing. You know, also, like, it's so pathetic. Also, you know, bringing her own child, well, at least biological, you know, her own biological child. She didn't carry the child. So somebody carried for her. So she didn't even give birth to the child. Another woman actually gave birth and carried inside of her daughter, right? So there is also that. I think it's kind of weird, if you ask me. If there is no medical condition, I don't know. If there is not a medical condition that perhaps she didn't want to carry her own child, I find it kind of absolutely freaking weird. You basically go like, okay, this is my egg, let's put a sperm in it of this other dude, and we put it in this other woman. I understand that gay couples sometimes can do this. I can understand that. But, you know, she brought in her surrogate, you know, daughter into this, right? Her daughter into this, saying that some troll, you know, made threat of microwaves or whatever. When in fact, actually, we saw also that was taken from another trial that the defendant or the person defamed was actually describing the same thing, that a troll had said the same thing. So most likely that phrase was stolen from somebody else. But I think I speak on behalf of my chat here. We are like 5,400, and I think 99.99% of just the people in my chat right now, we are actually worried for the kid. We want nothing but love for that creature. We want nothing but serenity and a good home and a good bringing up. Sorry, the word didn't come to me. We want nothing but the best for the little kid to grow in a wonderful environment and have a good chance at life. And I think that in this chat, we all agree on that. So it was also pathetic that she brought in just whatever troll saying something stupid to make herself, using even her kids to create that thing of pity, you know, like to create more pity and drama that people can feel pity for her. You know, that was really pathetic actually, because the 99.99% of good human beings, here, we see through that. And we want nothing but the best for their kid. So totally stupidity. Like I said, And I'm sure also you agree with that. At the most, maybe we are worried. We are a little bit worried for the kid. We are worried for the kid and hope that, she has a good chance, she has a good upbringing, especially with a mother like that. Oh my God. I mean, honestly, even if it's your own hags, I think a woman has a different relationship with the kid that you actually give birth to, that you carried inside of you for 9 months. You know what I mean? But anyway, I mean, there is also people which adopt kids and they love it as much as their own. So there is also that. Wow, what a wild ride. What a wild ride this was. My God. Whew. I mean, you have to also think like Johnny's friend, Helena Bonham Carter. I forgot her name, the British actress, She wrote a statement in those days, I suppose, saying like, do you think that really Johnny's not stupid? Do you think that if he was really guilty of those things, he would have come forward to put himself through all of this for 6 weeks in the public eye with all this freaking stuff, And there is also one major flaw of the argument of Rottenborn, especially the language that Johnny Depp used in his text. That as far as you can agree or disagree with that type of language, but it's also beyond the scope, because most of those messages, or probably all of them, if not all of them, actually were never directed to her. They were exchanged in between other people. So it makes no sense, that argument of Rottenborn, bringing up those text messages, because they were not directed to her. Those are messages of frustration or guilt or other things directed to other people. So they were never meant to be seen by the public, and especially by her. And it's such a major flaw to pick on those text messages, I think, at least most of them. I think it's such a stupid thing. And I hope that the jury sees that as well. I can see it, those are no messages that he was writing all the time directed towards her and to try to make her feel, small. Matter of fact, you have many audios recording of her belittling him, So again, guys, by the way, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. By the way, a lot of you asked me about the book, and this book is on Amazon, if you're curious. And the reason why I'm mentioning it is because when I wrote this book in 2011 and 12, and then it came out in 2015, actually there is a main character in this book that I wrote it inspired by Johnny Depp. And that's the truth. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but it just occurred to me actually, because I even forgot. But there is a very important character, a side character. It's not a main character, but definitely there is a big character in this book that shows up, I think, around mid-book, where I totally inspired both his age, his look, his style on real Johnny Depp. So because of course I like Johnny Depp, and I think it was a big inspiration to put that character in the book like that. So this is the only reason why I'm saying this now, because of course the book is always there. It's not the first time it's there. You know, it's been behind me for years. But some people asked me, and if you're curious, you can see it. There is, I think you can read a little bit on Amazon. The link is below, and there is also a Kindle version that it's like ridiculously cheap. It's like $1.80 or something like that. So for anybody that is curious about paranormal, fantasy, it's more paranormal, magical realism, paranormal. I'm a big fan of Japanese fiction writers. You know, like Banana Yoshimoto. Haruki Murakami is one of my favorite writers. So I definitely got inspired a lot by that type of modern writing. You know, most of the book takes place in between Amsterdam and Paris and also on another planet. So it's a little bit of a mix of stuff, but it's, you know, it's the best I could do for my first book, trying to create something entertaining that I loved, you know, inspired by the things that I really love, like Indiana Jones, like those fantasy movies of the 80s, and so on and so forth. So I'm just bringing it up because some of you were curious also about what I do. And of course the music, also you can read the music. There are links to Spotify on my videos that you can listen to music for free. Actually, because I saw that some of you really liked my cover of a Pearl Jam, I put it on the channel as a trailer. I changed the other song. I'm switching in between songs. So I put, we did with my friend this cover of Black. Because of course Pearl Jam is also one of my favorite band. So if you're curious, you can go listen to that later. I mean, it's better than listening to Rotten Born anyway. So yeah, I'm just saying those things because some of you also ask what I do and who I am and so on and so forth. So if you like reading after the process, after the trial, if you like to read this kind of stuff, you can have a look on Amazon. You know, if you have Kindle. I actually don't even know. Maybe, I don't think it's free for Kindle, but I saw that there were also for people which they have Kindle Unlimited or something. I don't know if that fits into those things. But either way, if you have Kindle, like it's literally $1.80 the book. It's really like nothing. So if you like that type of stuff, maybe you want to give it a look. That would be also cool. That would be also cool to find a little bit of more audience for the book. That would be just great. Oh man, can you imagine? Can you imagine the book gets good reviews, grows, and the story, somebody asks me to make a movie out of it, and then we put Johnny Depp in it? Oh my God, that would be the most beautiful gift of my existence if that arc of things will happen. Oh my God, that would be fantastic. Please, let me dream for a second, okay? I'm just dreaming aloud. I know most likely it's never gonna happen. I'm not an idiot, but let me dream for a second, okay? Please. Otherwise, I'm gonna start to fake cry. Let me dream for a second. That would be an absolutely fantastic, like, arc, you know? Oh my God, that would be beautiful. Or maybe I have to write more books. That's also possible. I have to write more. I have to get better at writing. I have to become a better writer. So that's also true. I mean, this is my first book, you know? The book even decided, it's like, fuck you, shut up. Here we go. Oh my God. The book is called Dreams from the Sky. I'm gonna write it here, but you find the links. There are the links on basically on every video, the links to Amazon, you know, if it's on Amazon. So I see also a lot of people, you know, giving super chat and stuff, which you are incredibly generous. So like a lot of people can also, you know, instead buy the book or leave a review. I appreciate that. You have no idea how much I would appreciate that. Honestly, I appreciate the super chat, but I also appreciate if somebody reads and is curious about the book and buys the book. That just fills me with joy, honestly, to a joy that I can never repay you, really. Okay, let me put this there. Dreams from the Sky, that's the name of the book. Guys, I'm talking, but if you want to listen to this guy, I can put the volume on. We can listen to it. I don't mean to, I'm not trying to, I mentioned it because it's nice. There is always somebody in the audience that maybe likes those type of things, so I'm just mentioning it. But
that's the counterclaim. She finally has said enough.
Oh my God, sorry guys, I cannot take it. I can shut up, but I cannot listen to this woman anymore. I've done it. I can't. I don't want to listen to anymore to Rottenborn. I don't want to listen to a word coming out of this woman's mouth ever again. Oh my God. Whew. Jesus. Oh, sorry, Mimi. Mimi Jeff, I didn't see the last part of your message. Man, I would love to sign. I would love to sign the books, man. This is the thing about something that you have done, that there is always a chance that it can pick up, So if the book starts to sell more and picks up and it gets more reviews and all that kind of stuff, because it's very important, to get reviews and stars and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, I think I had a few trolls on my channel which I blocked, and I think one of these assholes went to put a negative star on the book, which there is not many review on the book, unfortunately, because honestly I'm not known. So I'm just telling you true, I'm just not known. Even though I've sold books, I think I do sell a few hundred books every now and then, but it's not many. But yeah, there is always a chance that something can pick up, and I know that as a writer I need to grow. I mean, I don't claim to be like who knows what, but it was more for the deep desire of writing, deep desire of writing a story. I always wanted to be able to be a person that can say, I wanted to write songs and I did. I wanted to paint and I did. I wanted to finish a book and publish it, and I did. So I always want to be that type of person, despite your own limitation and despite having doubt about yourself, because I don't think I'm great. I never wake up in the morning and say like, oh, you are the best shit on the planet. Opposite to what the third person probably thinks of herself, most of us have continuous doubt about our talents and abilities, but we still endure. We still want to do it. I still want to do it. I still want to make music. I still want to sing. I still want to write. I still want to make YouTube and get better with it. So I know that I would love to start a new book, but it's a big process. It's a big process for me to start a book. And like I was saying, the good thing is when you have something there, both in music that you have published or in book that you have published, you can always find an audience. And what I think is, it's not that I think I'm great or whatever, but I'm pretty sure there must be like 50,000 people or 100,000 people or 20,000 people that probably really would enjoy to read the book, as much as I had fun writing it, for instance. So I always told that to myself when I was doing it. I will always tell myself, okay, just don't worry so much about that you cannot compare yourself to great writers. Just do your thing and know that there will be somebody out there, there will be audience that will enjoy it, So that's it. Oh, this was a fun comment. Elizabeth. Yes, Elizabeth Fate. I don't watch CNN either. Or MSNBC. I don't watch that either. She could definitely get a job there. Oh my God. Yeah, Maria, thank you so much. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you so much, Isaac. Man, if they come to a verdict today, oh man, that will be wild. That will be wild. Oh my God. Oh my God, that will be wild. I'm also very nervous. Honestly, I'm a little bit nervous because I think if there is a negative outcome, I don't think I'm going to sleep tonight. I got so engaged in all of this thing. I think, I need probably like a cold shower or something. I need to, better next week. It's better next week. Oh my God. It's better they give because I'm so nervous. Oh my God, I'm so nervous about this. Coco Sanchez, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Well, some people here, like on the Law and Crime channel here, said that it might take until Tuesday. The other woman said that jury sometimes wants to give the verdict before the holiday on a Friday. I have no idea. I don't know. Like, one thing is sure. Thank you so much. I would love to make an audiobook, but that's also a big project, like somebody has to narrate the book. Maybe I have to ask Audible. Maybe they do it. If the channel grows a little bit more, maybe they consider it, you know? Hey, ciao, Ruth. Nice to see you. Ciao, Ruth. Thank you so much. Hey, thank you, Angelo Tripodi. Thank you so much. San Paolo de Brasile. So nice, man. So nice. Thank you so much. Oh man, like I said, the only thing I care is just that this woman doesn't win nor the money nor the claim, you know, like that this guy finally can rest, you know? That this guy finally can rest. This guy is 59 in June, is like a few days after my birthday. I was also born in June, you know? The Brandy Lee, thank you so much. Exactly, she has a career. Oh, nice. We have a lot of Brazil in the chat. That's super nice.
Not Johnny Depp Amber Heard case related. That's a big courthouse. They got other courtrooms, a lot of personnel. We'll have Anjanette Levy coming up here pretty quick, and hopefully she will get to the bottom of it. But I wanted to bring you that update anyway. So closing arguments, of course, today. And don't say I'm ragging on Camille Vasquez because I said she's much more scripted, because I will tell you it was very well produced. There were so many audio and video clips to draw from for these closing arguments, and she did a great job of doing that. And she definitely played the one we have probably heard the most. Let's go.
Most importantly, you heard from Ms. Heard yourselves on multiple audio recordings admitting to being physically violent with Mr. Depp. You heard Ms. Heard admit to hitting Mr. Depp.
And then you f***ing clown.
Oh, start from. Wow.
I remember hating you as a response to the door thing. And I'm really sorry about hitting you with the door or hitting your head. I did not mean to, nor...
You didn't mean to hit me in the head with the door, but you meant to...
I didn't
punch me in the jaw.
Really?
I meant to hit you, and I did not do this thing with the door. I do remember, I did mean to hit you.
So that you didn't mean?
The door? No, God, no, I didn't.
But punching me in the jaw.
I didn't. Okay, I'm sorry I hit you. I did mean to hit you, but it was in response. I just reacted in response to my foot. I just reacted.
You heard her admit it again and claim Mr. Depp was a baby for complaining about the abuse.
And I watched you lie, and then
I didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, you've been in a lot of fights. You've been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you f***ing have a close...
You didn't get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not deck you. I f***ing was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are you?
What am I supposed to do? Do this? I'm not sitting here about it, am I? You are. That's the difference between me and you. You're a baby.
Because you started...
You are such a baby. Grow the up,
Johnny. You
Johnny.
start physical fights?
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did, so I had to get out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You're admirable.
I swear to God, only this audio is enough to prove that this woman, she likes to throw hands. This woman likes to throw hands more than an MMA fighter.
But I was hitting you. I was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched. Imagine that was Mr. Depp saying that to Miss Heard on that recording.
Boy, such good material to be able to weave into your closing argument. Karen, I'm going to break this thing in half, kind of as Ms. Vasquez did when she replayed this for the jury. The first half, you know, Amber Heard comes across almost sympathetic, like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, there was that incident where the door was kind of opened onto her toes, and she says she was reacting, and that's how she pushed the door back into Johnny Depp. I think she sounded proper and appropriate and almost apologetic. Your thoughts?
Well, for that part, that one little part, yes. But then we have the situation where she said that the only time she hit him was the incident on the staircase when she was trying to protect her sister Whitney. So I think that you have to play a little bit more of the tape to get the other part, which is, yes, I hit you. So I don't think that this is just one isolated incident. This is something that occurred on a frequent basis. So I don't buy that it was just innocent. You know, why were her toes smashed? Because he was trying to close her out of the bathroom or bedroom because he was trying to get away from her.
Okay, well, I was trying to throw
I love this woman.
I did
Woman,
think she sounded,
you are amazing.
Kind of,
you have a lovely smile.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
And I like you.
And then you're right. Then the rest of the tape rolled out there. And Mitra, you know, it's just... It's hard to overcome the feeling you get when listening to that she's kind of a bully.
I actually thought that was one of the most powerful moments of that closing, because at the very end of that, of course, after listening to what has already been a powerful recording throughout the trial, after listening to that, at the very end, Camille says, what if this was the other way around? And really gets you to think about that. And I think that's a very powerful moment, because we would not tolerate that for 1 second if the roles were reversed, regardless of the reason.
Yeah, no, I think that is a great point. And anybody sitting there hearing that, rolling that through their mind would be thinking, yeah, you're right. You're right. You're exactly right. How would this have played if it were the opposite? Okay, well, speaking of opposites, let's flip over now to the Heard team. This is Benjamin Rottenborn addressing those texts, which did not make Depp look so good. Here we go.
This was one of the first messages shown to Mr. Depp in his cross-examination. This is a message to Paul Bettany, his drug buddy, early on in their relationship.
Oh man!
When he says, "Let's burn Amber."
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, guys. I just cannot listen to this freaking guy. Okay? If I was Paul Bettany, I will sue his ass. How dare you just to drag that guy in and says like he's drug buddy. Dude, if I was Paul Bettany, I will sue your ass right now. Right now. Oh my god, this dude. This dude has to show his face out tomorrow. Can you imagine? Oh my god, Isaac Baruch. Like who gives a damn about those messages shared with friends? Who cares? You know, if anybody has like dark humor, you know, totally gets this. Messages can be totally taken out of context. With my brothers and my friends, we make all kinds of weird jokes, you know? And it's totally fine because they're jokes. Oh my god. Oh my god. I understand, like, you know, I just cannot listen to this guy anymore. I'm just sick of him. I understand that, you know, it's the job of lawyers to do this, right? Certain lawyers, but I just don't like him. Sorry. I mean, Camille, she made such a great point, you know? Oh, I want to listen to this lady.
That's just my guess that she have to be present, and the court granted that. I mean, Johnny's really enjoying his time in the courthouse, greeting his fans, and so I don't really think that it was his request. And I think even if he loses the case, he's still going to have the fan base, and so I don't think the request came from him.
Yeah, it's hard to listen to you, Karen, because I'm seeing these glammed up alpacas eating the grass outside the courthouse. Yeah, I don't know what the hell is happening here. Okay, we're going to take a break here. Anjanette Levy is on the backside of this break. Maybe she can enlighten us as to the latest alpaca news. We'll take a break, come right back. This is Law and Crime.
All right. So Camille made a great point, actually. She made really a great point, especially with that audio, you know? It's like, how can you, like, if you can swap the places, nobody would have waited 1 second. And I would like to remind also people that in the beginning, like literally in the very beginning of when she came out with that op-ed, look, that the majority of people was on her side. Everybody immediately threw under the bus JD. Celebrities, journalists, people, immediately they ran on her side. Because we live in an environment that you're guilty before everything, before the process, before the trial. It happened instantly. Instantly it happened that as soon as she made the claims, he was marked as a wife beater. You know what I mean? Everybody was on her side. I think really the Johnny Depp, the Justice for Johnny Depp hashtag, I think it started to gain momentum when some videos, audios started to leak out. And then people started to hear those audios and they got outraged. They got outraged from what they heard. That's the truth. That's the truth. And then that's when I think, I might be wrong, but I think that the hashtag Justice for Johnny Depp started to gain more momentum, at least. I am not aware if it existed before, but I'm pretty sure that as soon as people started to hear those leaked audios, they made up their minds. They made up their minds. And that's when people started to swap again, you know? a lot of people go like, oh, wait a second, I don't like this. She was lying then, you know? She's the abuser. It's actually quite insane if you think about it. Whew.
Welcome back, folks. The jury's still at it in the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard matter. Of course, it's only been 45 minutes. What would you expect? And so, luckily, outside the courthouse, we have Anjanette Levy. She's going to bring us up to speed on all of the doings out there. It looks like, you know, I can feel the anticipation swelling and kind of washing over us like a wave there, Anjanette. We know from experience that wanes over a period of time, and then it swells again when we're getting closer to a verdict. Give me the feel for what's happening out there.
Thank you.
Well, Michael, right now you can see, I don't know if you can quite see it behind me actually, but there is a very large crowd over at the front of the courthouse. They've gathered there. Each day after Johnny Depp leaves the courthouse, the crowd that lines the street behind the courthouse where he drives away comes over this way. They come to the front of the courthouse in the hope of seeing his attorneys. So they had kind of lined both sides of the sidewalk there in front of the courthouse, hoping that they would come out. The alpacas are there. There is a little boy dressed like a pirate there. People are posing for photos with the alpacas. So this crowd of supporters for Johnny Depp, you know, this is their migration pattern every day. They go from the back where they line the street. They come over here. They are still waiting. There was a big cheer a little while ago. So I don't know if anyone actually came out of the courthouse or not. But people are here and waiting. Some of these fans have been here the entire 6 weeks that this trial has been going on. I've talked to a couple of them who said they will be leaving tonight. So if deliberations happen to go into next week, they won't be here for that. But there are still plenty of people who are, you know, local to this area who are here, and they wanted to come out and show their support for Johnny Depp and wait. There are also about 5, I think maybe 4 or 5 supporters of Amber Heard standing over there as well. So we're going to go try to talk to them in a little bit. But Michael, let me just tell you, you and I know, have been in lots of courtrooms over the years, and we typically cover criminal trials here on the Law and Crime Network. We cover, sadly, a lot of homicide cases. This was a different type of case because it's a civil case, and it's a high-profile case involving 2 people in Hollywood. There are things that have happened in this trial that we've never seen in any other trial, and one of those happens to be just the fact that when this was over, Judge Asked Karate, I don't know if we were playing this live on the network or not, it may have been on the live stream on YouTube, basically gave her, you know, a shout out to her court reporter, calling her a rock star. People clapped. So there was a round of applause in the courtroom for the court reporter. And then I saw Amber Heard hugging her attorneys afterwards, and then Johnny Depp got up to leave with his team, and people stood up and started saying, "We love you, Johnny," and they waved, and everybody's trying to, you know, maintain decorum because people have gotten in trouble before for trying to, you know, be too vocal about their support, but it seemed like things loosened up a little bit today, and they just kept waving, and he waved back, and there was a gentleman on the other side of the courtroom for me, and I think he said, you know, he put his fist up in the air and said, you know, something like, "Brother, we love you," or something like that. So, and then he started to walk out, and then there was more "we love you" and more waving, and everybody's, you know, it's kind of like this bounce. They almost bounce up, like, and they're like this.
I mean, people are on the right side, you know?
I've never seen anything like that. Again, I will couch that with the fact that we typically cover murder trials. So it's been really something to watch.
Yeah, that is, and the critical distinction is criminal versus civil. I mean, I've covered the O.J. trials. I covered, you know, Michael Jackson trial in Santa Maria, seeing him that's freakish enough. But you're right. When there's nothing more than money on the line, people tend to be you know, a little more human about it. And, you know, they can't help it. It's Johnny Depp. So very interesting. Hey, you got to clear this up for us. I don't know if you know any more or less than we do, but there were some cops that rushed to the courthouse there not too long ago, and there was some speculation it might relate to this case. Apparently does not.
No.
Any info on that?
Yeah, I poked around a little bit about that because they went right by our digs here, our tent, the Law and Crime broadcast tent. I call it Studio
Center,
A or
we
Tent
like to
A.
call that.
Oh, yes, Broadcast Center, good. Good PR there, Michael Bryant, good thinking. That makes it sound way more glamorous and luxurious. But yes, the Law and Crime Studio A Broadcast Center, they went like past here on their motorcycles with their sirens on, and it was a little bit disconcerting because typically they don't go on the sidewalk, they go around the street here at the courthouse. And I went and asked because I was a little concerned that something had gone wrong in the courthouse. Things happen in courthouses a lot. There are, you know, people from all walks of life that come into these courthouses, and it's my understanding there was a panic alarm in a situation with a mentally ill person, and that it may not have been related to this case at all, and likely wasn't related to this case.
Okay. Yeah, well, obviously it's a big building, lots of things going on there, lots of activity. Okay, so before I let you go, let's talk about this plan for the day. We understand you will not be getting any food. Nobody's getting any food on the jury, which may be the biggest motivator for ending deliberations today. What's your understanding of the schedule?
Judge Ascarati told them they could deliberate later if they felt like it. However, they said, Judge Ascarati said, I don't order dinner, so she let them know that if they wanted dinner, that was not happening. So I didn't know if maybe that was kind of like a signal to them that, hey, it's a holiday weekend, Memorial Day weekend, let's shut this down at 5, or maybe it's just her standard practice that she doesn't order in dinner and doesn't want juries deliberating late into the evening hours. I know I've covered verdicts that have come down at 10 o'clock at night. Before, I've covered verdicts that have come down closer to 11 p.m. at night. So who knows? But there's a lot to go through. And if you looked at the jury instructions during those closing arguments, they have to answer several questions for each case. Not only Johnny Depp's case, but the counterclaim from Amber Heard.
Yeah. So, again, I would be shocked. I think most would be if they came back today. But they'll make some progress.
Me too.
And, yeah. OJ number 2, November 2008. That was 11:15 at night, Vegas time. So, 2:15 in the morning. It can happen.
Oh, my gosh.
So I don't wish that on you, though. So
that's funny you bring that up. Can I just say that I was out there on vacation when OJ was arrested. Wow, that was something else.
Oh, yeah.
That was quite the circus. I still have video from my Kodak digital camera. I just couldn't stay away. I was on vacation and staying at New York or something. And I ran over to the courthouse. I'm like, I have to see if I can get this. And his attorney, Galanter, I remember, what was his name? Galanter.
He was
Galanter.
The local guy. Yeah, that was the local guy.
Yeah, I was recording him. Wow, I still have that video clip somewhere. That was something. That guy had a lot to say outside of the jail there in Clark County.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just had to you brought it up. I had to say it. So
I appreciate that. Well, get back to it now, and good luck with everything out there. We, of course, will be checking in. We appreciate the fine work from the ground there. Thanks, Anjanette.
Thanks, Michael.
You bet. Okay, we got just a quick moment before we take a break, so let me slip in a message. How about a question for Mitra? So, what's your take on how the judge is handling this kind of loosey-goosey deliberation period?
I think she's, recognizing that it's been 6 long weeks, and I'm sure she's picking up cues from the jury that they're tired. I saw Elaine, Amber Heard's lawyer, yawning in the courtroom. I think everyone's sort of probably in need of a break. So it sounds like she's encouraging ending early today. So although there's been some talk of the, of deliberations and the jury coming back with something quickly in hopes of being done with this, it might just be that they need to come in fresh on Tuesday and maybe have it be shorter because they're more fresh. But I think the judge wants to send the people that work for her home as well, including the rock star court reporter.
Yeah, and I've said that many times in the past because I have had an intimate relationship with a court reporter. I was married, but yeah, they are the most important court personnel in that room. I guarantee you. When the cross-talking's going on, it is a nightmare. So bless those folks. Okay, we're going to take a break here. Stay where you are, guys. We will talk more about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case because, as you may have heard, They're deliberating. Been at it almost an hour. We'll be right back to Law and Crime right after this.
Well, sorry guys, I'm a little bit distracted because I was trying to find also if I could find some news, you know, not to switch the It's really hard to find anything, man. I swear you find more stuff on Reddit, you find more stuff on those threads, that if you try to seek some like fresh news on, you know, searching the news and the media, you know, on the internet normally. Like there is literally like the only type of media you hear, it's basically it's basically like mostly not giving a clear depiction of Johnny Depp, you know, or this case seems like very biased towards the third person. They keep saying like, you know, that they might finish tonight. Oh man, in a way it would be great. In another way, I think if they finish tonight, we're gonna talk about, probably I'm gonna be online until 5 o'clock in the morning, you know what I mean? Oof. It's gonna be intense, man.
And welcome back to the afternoon session. I'm Michael Bryant, and we are at Verdict Watch plus 1 hour and maybe 1 minute in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case. The jury has the case now, and they've heard all the closing arguments. They've got instructions, and now they're at it, doing their thing. And the real question is how late they will go today. The judge has been accommodating but not encouraging in terms of how late they might want to stay, to the point that she said, we're not going to order in food. So if that's a factor for you, you might want to pull the plug early and start your holiday weekend. So, obviously, earlier today we heard the closing arguments from both sides. And as we did, we heard from one of the more popular attorneys in this case, Camille Vasquez. So let's listen now to some of her closing argument. Again, Johnny Depp's side. Here we go.
Camille,
the mountain of evidence that Mr. Depp abused Ms. Heard is simply not there. What we have is a mountain of unproven allegations that are wild, over the top, and implausible. And you can't pick and choose which of these wild allegations to believe and which ones to disregard. You either believe all of it or none of it. Either Mr. Depp sexually assaulted Ms. Heard with a bottle in Australia, or Ms. Heard got up on that stand in front of all of you and made up that horrific tale of abuse. Either she's a victim of truly horrific abuse, or she is a woman who is willing to say absolutely anything.
The second, everybody knows it's the second.
It is disturbing to think that Ms. Heard would make up the horrific tales of abuse that she testified to in this courtroom. But this case doesn't come down to whether you believe Ms. Heard or you believe Mr. Depp. This case comes down to whether you believe Ms. Heard or you believe Mr. Depp, Christy Dombrowski, Sean Bett, Malcolm Connolly, Travis McGivern, Starling Jenkins, Keenan Wyatt, Dr. Kipper, nurses Debbie Lloyd and Erin Filati, Tara Roberts, Ben King, Kate James, Kate Moss, Dr. Colber, Morgan Knight, Morgan Tremaine, Officers Melissa Sines, Officers Tyler Haddon, Officer William Gatlin, and Beverly Leonard. What Ms. Heard testified to in this courtroom is the story of far too many women. But the overwhelming evidence and weight of that evidence shows that it is not her story. It's not Ms. Heard's story. It was an act of profound cruelty, not just to Mr. Depp, but to true survivors of domestic abuse.
And we agree.
For Ms. Heard to hold herself out as a public figure representing domestic abuse. It was false, it was defamatory, and it caused irreparable harm.
So there is the rebuttal wrapping up the Johnny Depp portion of closing arguments today with Camille Vasquez, and she's touching on that very important issue that if there are true survivors of sexual abuse, and in fact Amber Heard is lying, she is not helping the cause. Karen Felicia Nance is here. She's a criminal defense attorney. She's in the East Bay there, across the Golden Gate. We're actually across the Bay Bridge. And Mitra Horian, she's in Beverly Hills, entertainment lawyer, attorney. So thanks, guys, for joining as we sit here in verdict watch, waiting to see if the jury will, you know, speed through their duties or kind of take the 3-day weekend to figure it out. Karen, when we hear from Johnny Depp's side here talking about the importance of believing abuse victims that can substantiate their stories, do you think there's any backlash from that? Because this is such a volatile issue. You know, we've seen believe all women from political figures, and then we've seen those that say, well, yeah, if you believe them, they need to make sure the story they're telling is true because you're not helping others if it's not.
I think what Camille did in her closing was really helpful because she not only said that it's about Johnny and Amber, it's about the other witnesses that we heard testify, and a significant number were women, and several were mandatory reporters, meaning that they had an obligation. The counselor, the marriage counselor, Debbie Lloyd, who was the concierge nurse, and also the one who, I think her name is Erin, who was Amber's specific nurse or nurse that took care of her. They had an obligation to report any form of abuse if they saw it. So I think that has to come into play. We're not only talking about people that were paid by Johnny Depp, that were employed by him, which is what Amber's team was insinuating. We had testimony from police officers, one of whom was a female. And I think that when we put all that together, I don't think that that those people who had no interest whatsoever, the police officers said they didn't even know who Amber Heard was, and they didn't even know that the other person, the quote abuser, was Johnny Depp. So I think we have to put that into play and say that it doesn't bode well for Amber's position. It's not just her word against Johnny Depp's word, it's her word against all these other witnesses that didn't have a motivation or bias to lie.
Yeah, I think it was a good technique, good way to use what you have there in terms of this witness list in your favor. I've been looking through the special verdict form. It's 4 pages, chock full of questions.
I mean, for me, that's
the one
enough.
I'm looking for, actually,
For me,
too,
already
maybe,
the
is Johnny Depp a spoiled
enough.
brat? Yes or no? Is Amber Heard a spoiled brat? Yes or no?
prove
I
that
think
her
they are.
friends were actually
And that's part of the
keeping
reason
the
we're in
lie
trial
with
going through
her
these
because it was
defamation
convenient
claims,
to
because
them.
those usually don't make it to trial. I've said it before, but when you got a ton of money and you're upset about something, then great. You can get this case in front of a jury. Mitra, do you think there's a chance that the jury might be mad that they're brought into a case that maybe in a lot of situations would never see the inside of a courtroom?
You know, I've actually thought of that, because I imagine in the beginning it was very exciting for them. Oh, we're going to see Johnny Depp in the courtroom, and we're going to see, at the time they thought it was going to have Elon Musk and James Franco, and it's going to be kind of this, you know, inside look into celebrities. And I think that they were probably disappointed a couple weeks in when they started getting into kind of the nitty gritty of the, you know, data analytics and the testimonies from psychologists and how they do their examinations and all of that. And of course, after 6 weeks, they probably just want to be done with it, and probably have never wished so much that they would be going back to work for those of them that that have work. So I would say yes. I would say, especially with so much redundancy. And again, you brought up a really great point. You know, most people do not have this kind of access to the justice system. Amber Heard spent $6 million on attorney's fees so far. And, you know, the average person cannot afford to bring in all of those experts and witnesses and really take this on a 6-week trial. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I was going to say something snarky here. I would never do that. But the question is, did she pledge them the $6 million, or is she going to pay them?
Fair point.
Okay. Hey, Natalie, do we need to take a break here? I'm sorry, I kind of lost track where we were going. Okay.
Can you imagine how much also those freaking lawyers and stuff cost? Seriously, $6 million?
Let's listen to more,
my
as
God.
he represents, of course, Amber Heard in this matter. Here we go.
This is the document that Mr. Depp signed, the divorce agreement, where he says...
Sorry, guys, I can't. If you want to listen to this guy, you can switch on their channel. I just can't. Oh my God, I just can't. I hear this voice. I feel already like my stomach like churning. I'm like, It's like the moment this guy started talking, I literally saw a blackbird just came here. A blackbird threatened me. Says like, if you play this guy talking, I'm gonna shit you right there. So I had to mute. The blackbird went away. Luckily. Continue singing, blackbird. Oh my God. Johnny Depp is really like, even Camille is looking at the guy like, you're a joke. You're a joke. Man, I just want to give a thumbs up also to John Wayne, that shaking his head there in the back. He's looking at Rottenborn like, and looking down like, wow, that's, in my long career, I never been that low. John Wayne, it's like, no way. No way I would have done that. Wait, Faldiasso, I hope you're wrong, honestly. I hope you're really wrong. I understand that there is a chance for all of them but to win. I understand that, but... May Wald. Unfortunately, the book is only in English for the moment. I'm sorry, yeah. Sorry. It's only in English for the moment. But then again, like I said, if the book picks up, then there is a chance, you can start to translate it in other languages, because it's also quite a work to do, to translate it well in other languages. That's what the guy says here.
What's the problem?
I mean, I thought it was interesting that he went there for two reasons. One, this case is not about free speech. It's a defamation case. Everyone's aware of that.
Exactly.
And to sort of make it this bigger thing, it makes it very hard to take him seriously. Second,
I agree.
This case was filed in Virginia because they don't have really strong anti-SLAPP laws, as opposed to being filed in California. So sure, make the argument, but it's not really a winning argument. So to kind of appeal to this sense of, being upholding the Constitution, when we're not really here for that. We're here because you accused someone of abuse. I think just is kind of a reach.
Yeah, and let's make it clear, obviously truth is a complete defense, so you have free speech rights if you're telling the truth, and that's what this case is all about. If she wrote those things or acknowledged those things and they are true, then fine, that's free speech, knock yourself out. Karen, one of the other things he got into was again referencing the sexual abuse victims in general and saying, hey, it's always going to be more, we gave you this, but you need more. Yeah, how do you like that argument?
Well, I mean, he has a right to bring his case, and as does Amber in her countersuit. And he had a right to bring his case in the UK. Sure. I mean, each party filed motions to regarding the other team to dismiss. If the court didn't feel that there was enough evidence to move forward on either of their motions, the case would have been dropped, either Amber's case against Johnny and vice versa. So the minimum threshold in moving forward in the case has been established. And so now it's up to the jury to make the determination. So it's the money that's being spent is the money that both parties have spent on attorneys. Obviously, we're using the court's time and the jury service and that, but that's part of the process. And so the process is working as it should. And so I think that he took some liberties there, Mr. Rottenborn. And I think that in his closing, he can do that. He has every right to do that within the time limits that the court set. And they both, as you indicated, both teams stuck with their time limits. So it's an argument. It's an opportunity to try to sway the jury in your direction. And so each party did the best that they could, and we'll see what the jury decides.
Yeah, and it's an important point you make about these cases not being kind of headed off the pass pre-trial. You have to prove to the court at some point prior to trial that there are issues of material fact that are disputed. If you lay out all the facts and there's no dispute, this case never gets to trial. Obviously, in a case like this, lots of disputes about what was happening, and that's up to the jury to figure out, as they are doing now, about an hour and 20 minutes into their deliberations in this double-headed monster here, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp. Let's take a break. Now, when we come back, there were so many highlights from just this week alone. I think we ought to dip into those. What do you think? We'll be right back.
As long as Rottenborn is not talking, I'm totally cool with it. Or Elaine, I'm just done listening to these people. Like, I really need a cleansing. Oh my God. I love being with you guys here. Really, I really enjoy doing this together. I will never have done this alone. So also for me, actually, it's been a great excuse for the channel to grow, for the channel to do content every day. I don't think I would have put myself through this alone, just by myself. Together, it's great. It's really nice to do it together. And also there's this collective feeling, especially when you get angry and when we rejoice, that alone, because I'm not so much into gossip in general, I'm not so much into that type of stuff. But this, for some reason, like always having liked Johnny and also seeing the absurdity of this thing, of this case that started to be more and more obvious of the injustice, then you really get engaged, like, oh, come on, we cannot let this shit happen. Of course, injustice happen all the time in our world, which is so unfortunate. I just read, and I don't want to make this about that, but I just want to mention it. What happened in the U.S. also. I think it was in Texas. What happened with this shooting and the kids, and it's I don't want to make this political or whatever, or about guns or whatever, but we in Europe, we in Europe in general, we don't understand much of what the heck is happening like that. We just don't get it. Because I live in Amsterdam, and I feel safe. I feel safe walking around. Stuff happens also here once in a while, but it's an exception. It's not the rule. So you feel safe. You feel safe to go around. You feel safe at night. You feel safe during the day. You feel safe sending your kids to school. You feel safe doing grocery. You feel safe doing your gas. You never comes into your head that there might be a possibility that somebody all of a sudden goes berserk like that. So we, like I said, now I don't want to make that about this, but we don't understand it much. We don't understand much, and that's one example of like life being unfair. So I know life, it's unfair, it's unjust. It's unjust, and actually, to be fair, there is also things that are way more important than Johnny Depp and her piece of human filth ex-wife. There are things that are way more important than this. But if you look at it from the perspective of seeing this as a perpetrator of lies, and then that the person perpetuating the lies, which is so obvious, tries to even gain the upper hand in morality, then we really are raged, because this is not what the best of humanity is about. What happened in Texas is not what the best of humanity is about. What is happening in Ukraine, it's not what the best of humanity is about. And we have to fight for that. We have to fight to try to be what we can be the best of in terms of this freaking creature that we are, Otherwise, we are just we are not worthy of being here, of the gift of life that we have been receiving, if we don't try at least to make it freaking better. You know what I mean?
You suffered publicly.
Oh, mamma Carmen Rottenborn, io non ce la faccio proprio a te sentire manco più una parola, voglio sentire da te. Tu sei proprio quando la mattina la camera a monnezza passa, capito? Cioè, se pigli paura, la camera a monnezza, se pigli paura insieme a Maron, stai tu vicino alla monnezza, capito? Cioè, tu fai più paura alla monnezza, tu fai più paura proprio alla scumma, capito? Quando piove e si fa l'uoglio che si fanno in macchia che si propagano in coppa all'asfalto, capito? Tu si peggio di quello proprio. Mamma Carmen. Ma ne si camminano in due scure, in da notte, in da una severa, su lì, al posto di trovare qualche parte. Mamma Carmen, Rottenborn. Sometimes you gotta say it.
Nobody should go through that. On the other hand, Karen, Felicia, Nance, these are people in the spotlight. I'm sure, there are a lot of sickos out there. We know that. Recent news events confirm that. And I guess if you hang it out there as a public figure, to a certain degree, the sickos are going to find you.
I agree. And I think that this didn't just start with Johnny filing the lawsuit. I think that social media, unfortunately, as you indicated, there are people that go to extremes and they can hide behind their names, come up with names on Instagram where they can't readily be located, but they can be obviously as with Twitter, taken off the social media platforms. And so I think that to put all of that, the onus on Johnny, that all the attacks that she's received verbally, the threats, they're not in direct result of things that he has done. I think that it's very clear to everyone that he is a much more established, well-known star than she is. And I agree that to the extent that you are a public figure, you are an actor, actress, you put yourself in that lane, in that zone. And I don't think that it makes it right for people to do the things and say the things that they do. But on the other hand, I don't think that even if she wins the case, that's going to stop, you know. And so I don't think that Johnny has any control over that, or his team.
Yeah, and I think the jury's got to weigh that and then think it through, like, you know, what was it like before, and what do you think it's going to be like after, and is this really a direct result, causal connection to something Johnny Depp has or hasn't done? Speaking of Mr. Depp, and he again took the stand this week, let's listen to some of his last performance.
Johnny we can listen to. Johnny we can listen to.
No human being is perfect, certainly not. None of us. But I have never in my life committed sexual battery, physical abuse, all these outlandish, outrageous stories of me committing these things and living with it for 6 years and waiting to be able to bring the truth out. So this is not easy for any of us. I know that. But no matter what happens, I did get here, and I did tell the truth, and I have spoken up for what I've been carrying on my back reluctantly for 6 years.
So again, Johnny Depp from his last appearance on the stand as part of their rebuttal case. So Mitra, in some of the closing, I think this particular bite I'm thinking of was Camille Vasquez, where she led up to her list of witnesses that she believes supported Johnny Depp, and she said it by saying, this is not about whether you believe Amber Heard or Johnny Depp, and then she said it's whether you believe Johnny Depp and all of these other folks. But let's take the other folks out of the mix. How important really is it, when you boil this down, whether this jury believes Johnny Depp or believes Amber Heard?
I think it's everything, and I think that's what's the most difficult thing about this case, is that we don't have a ton of hard evidence. This is the kind of stuff that normally happens behind closed doors. And I'm watching Amber Heard's reaction, you know, as Johnny Depp is saying, I have told the truth and I'm here and I've said everything that I needed to say. And I'm looking at her and I'm just thinking, well, one of these two isn't telling the whole truth. And I wonder which one it is and who is, you know, what's going through one another's minds when they hear, you know, the other side really saying something that they believe is a complete lie, because it's not that they are accusing one another of half-truth. They're outright accusing one another of lying. So I think that that's a difficult question for anyone to answer, because the bottom line is we don't have the hard evidence that corroborates either side, you know, completely.
Yeah, and you've got the very difficult, I mean, it would take a team of mental health professionals to get inside these heads. Some of the stuff they may have heard or told themselves often enough, they believe it. They believe every detail that they've recited. So in their minds, I'm telling the truth. So Depp thinks he's telling the truth, and Amber Heard thinks she's telling the truth. And you know, this jury now, as they deliberate, working on about an hour and a half now, they get to try to figure out who really was telling the truth based on all of the other corroborative evidence or the lack thereof. So good stuff, folks. I appreciate the insights. We're going to take a quick break here and come back. We'll talk more about Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, the trial that has consumed us for the last 6+
Man, I don't think there has been anything in TV in these years or whatever that it's been as watched as this thing. I mean, seriously, even people like me, which they are not into gossips, I think I've started to watch this stuff like by the millions, like really something that just opened up the door. Oof. It's actually quite crazy. It's quite nuts. And now an hour is passed. We don't know how fast this jury is going to be. I think usually the day ends around 11, right? Or 11:30. I mean, it's going to be 5:30 in Virginia. So we have around half an hour or an hour to know whether this ends today, I guess, or not. So, yeah. You're gonna stay here for another hour. Actually, I would just want to check something. Like, let me see here. Let me see. I put. There we go. Let's check if we find something here. Let's check some memes together. So, Amber Council coming out to give a closing statement. It's like with all those freaking post-it that she was writing. Oh man, I love the internet. That's exactly accurate. I appreciate posts for these 3 queens. The judge actually is great. I think if it was up to the judge, this would have been already finished. You guys, I cried. All is well in this world. Man, I honestly felt emotional too. I really felt emotional because I think they really believe each other, but it's true. It's not fake like the hags they give on the other side, you know. This really everything comes across as legit, you know. And it's like, I know you can say like, oh, okay, you're biased, blah 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 blah, but and nothing on the other camp feels authentic. Nothing, not even the desk. Nothing feels authentic. Look at this, huh? Look at them. Like, all right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna fight this battle till the end. We are a team. We believe in the truth. Yeah, it's true. Actually, I heard also Ben Shaw a little bit like choking up in his statement. Let's listen to this.
Fighting for. It is. And it's about restoring Mr. Depp's name and standing in the community to the fullest extent that you can. And you can do something. And only you, ladies and gentlemen, can do that for him.
Wow, John is moved. John is moved by the man. I felt it too when he was talking, honestly. I felt it too. Beautiful hug. He really believed. Bencho, you are on the right side. I love this. I love the court stenographer during a lens closing argument. Oh, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly. This is the closing time. This woman is so weird with her emotions. This woman is so freaking weird with her emotions. I just don't get it. Like, this is the closing argument of Camille. Johnny Depp is like, Johnny Depp is ready, like, it's tired, man. This guy is exhausted. And they're making weird faces. Are we gonna get back at them? What a bunch of fake freaking 3 dollar bills. Exactly. Rottenborn after today. Actually, this is what I discovered about the judge also. So this is what I discovered about the judge. The judge Azzarate, she actually, like, look. She actually, first of all, had long hair once. But during her tenure on the bench, Judge Azzarate spearheaded the initiative to create the first veterans treatment docket in the Commonwealth of Virginia, a specialty court designed to treat veterans suffering from mental health and substance abuse issues. During her tenure in General District Court, Judge Azzarate began to see a pattern of veterans coming before her on criminal charges with no prior criminal history. She recognized the need to provide the resources necessary for the veterans to transition back to civil life and receive treatment for various mental health and substance abuse issues that are often a result of the stress of the military service and a contributing factor to their subsequent criminal charges. The VTD service veterans who have committed nonviolent misdemeanor and felony offenses, facilitating treatment and mentorship programs, as well as providing other resources designed to reintegrate them into the community. Today, Fairfax County has established a veterans treatment docket in each of its three courts: General District, Juvenile Domestic Relation, and Circuit Court. So, Judge Azzarate, I think she knows what's up. I think Judge Azzarate, first of all, thumbs up, Judge Azzarate, awesome. But I think she knows what's up. She knows what's up. Oh, guys, I want to show you this. Actually, I made a video. This is literally a video of Amber Heard, like, that doesn't know how to treat dogs. And look at this. There's literally her telling the dog,
don't you scratch that glass one more time. I will hurt you.
I will hurt you. She doesn't know how to drag a dog. And then literally she's putting the little dog outside the window. Man, the internet is fantastic. Look at how she's dragging that dog. What on earth are you doing with that dog? Good mother of God. Can she even walk, this woman? Mother of the universe.
Don't you scratch that glass one more time. I will hurt you.
What a joke this woman is. Oh my God. I love the internet, man. I love the internet. So those are the glasses of JD. That's a jar. That's kind of cool. It's like a glass jar. All right, I'm gonna buy one for. Buy one for my cappuccinos. That looks pretty cool to drink cappuccinos coffee out of that. I'm definitely doing this. So what is it called? Called redneck wine glass. That's stupid though. Oh man. All right. I'm just gonna do this because I want to find the glass later on. Oh, Anna, I'm worried for the daughter as well. Look how nice. This guy's so sweet. Look how authentic this is. Look how this is authentic. Look at this. Look how authentic that is. Huh?
Did you or did you not lie? No. No, I didn't. I did not. No. Miss Heard, I'm over here. Okay. Is it true that last night you ate macaroni and cheese?
Well, the noodles did have cheese, but it wasn't macaroni and cheese.
No. So you agree you had macaroni and cheese last night?
No, like I said, there was cheese in the macaroni, but no.
couldn't have been macaroni and cheese, no. And it appears that you also drank a Diet Coke with your meal last night, correct or incorrect?
Oh, sorry, guys. I want to go to this. What is happening? What is happening? I need to know what is happening here. What is happening right here? Oh man, there's so many guys with probably also a lot of YouTubers like me. There's a lot of people like, you know, with cameras and stuff.
There's more of those like this. I took a picture of it and let me see it.
Man, I need to know what is happening here. I need to know what is happening. I need to know what is happening here. They're just waiting for well, JD doesn't come out of this door, so that's for sure. Well, I find it strange, though. I mean, they're running this now, so I don't know what they're running this for now. We were checking memes. Well, like I said before, we have, I think, like half an hour left. Between half an hour and an hour left. We will know if the jury goes home or not. I really don't know what is happening here, honestly. I love you and your lawyers, Johnny. That's so nice. Oh man, if this ends today, I'm shaking, man. Ooh. Oh my god. I don't know if I can take that. Honestly. Don't know if I can do this. No. My husband, where were you? We heard that, lady. We know that. And now also your husband knows. Woman escaping, trying to get a glimpse of JD. I don't blame you, lady. It's fine. It's all good. Don't worry. We understand. We understand. So today it's Lily Rose's birthday. So JD daughter birthday. That's awesome. Happy birthday, Lily Rose. Not that she's here anyway. We're gonna send her the birthday wishes on Instagram. Where's that? Who is that? Who is that? זה קמיל. That's Ben Cho. I don't see nothing here. Cameraman for Law and Crime. What on earth are you doing? Get into the action, man. We need to talk, okay? Get closer, man. But this is not JD. This cannot be JD, right? This is Bencho. This is probably Camille. Yeah, I think it just. I think they're just. I think it's just the lawyer leaving, because I think JD goes back from the back. It's not. Otherwise, it will be mayhem here in the front. Man, I swear I would pay to hear Judge Garate speak. I would love to hear her point of view. I honestly have no idea what is happening here. Just waiting, but nothing is happening. Just a mystery. Yeah, there are news cameras, there's just this thing. Oh. But nothing really is happening. Sorry, I missed the super chat. IT, just saw your cover of I Know It's Over. So beautiful. Great voice, Frank. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much to check that out. Yeah, I have to redo some covers again. Some covers are old, you know, I haven't recorded them properly. It's been a while. I gotta start to get to more covers again every now and then. Thank you for checking. I really appreciate that. I really do. Solo, but yes, there is a lot of stuff here to do that. A lot of stuff to go smoke. I'm not a smoker anymore. I don't smoke neither. I've used to both, but I stopped like weed. I've stopped like long time ago, like It's literally like 20 years or like 18 years or something that I don't smoke weed anymore. And also cigarettes. It's quite a long time I don't smoke anymore. Hey, I like that lady there with the black t-shirt. I think that's a Johnny Depp t-shirt. That's cool. Guys, I think it's really close now. I mean, now it is 5 o'clock in Virginia, literally. So we will know, like in the next 10 minutes or so, if they're going on until 5:30, or if they come out, or it's probably postponed to Tuesday. So those next 5 minutes are intense. Thank you so much, Donna. Thank you so much, really, for the super chat. I really appreciate that. I'm just trying to keep it quiet because we will find out now what the hell is happening with this.
Deliberating, I would imagine we're going to hear
here we go.
Relatively soon whether they're going to carry on further into the evening or call it and get back at it Tuesday after the holiday weekend. So welcome to extended coverage here. I'm Michael Bryant. You know, we know a couple of things, at least from what's been going on outside the courthouse. We've got our cameras there waiting for something to happen inside or outside. We know Johnny Depp left already.
All right.
We also know that the judge has excused the litigants from being there for the verdict, which I think is odd under the circumstances. Shocked if they aren't both returning for that purpose. But maybe, you know, if they're going to just bug out for the weekend, and that's what's going to happen. Who knows? We'll just keep an eye on things. You can see it's still rather hectic outside. Just a lot of people just standing around waiting with you know, that anticipation that could this be a very quick Friday afternoon type verdict. So as we get into this extended coverage here, gives us a chance to recap some of the more interesting testimony from this trial. You might remember Dr. Shannon Curry. She took the stand in the main case for Johnny Depp, also in his rebuttal. And she talked about fellow Dr. Don Hughes' evaluation that Heard suffered from PTSD. Let's watch.
Dr. Hughes says that Ms. Heard has PTSD. Do you agree?
I do not.
Why not?
The results of my multi-method comprehensive evaluation based on carefully selected, researched, relevant test instruments, based on comparing those instruments to Ms. Heard's self-report, observing Ms. Heard's behavior over 12 direct hours of assessment, reviewing copious notes from prior therapists who indicated symptoms in their notes, reviewing the notes of Nurse Filati, previously Nurse Borum, who spent, I believe at one point, almost 2 months with Ms. Heard daily, reviewing the notes of her treating providers, all of the legal documents and discovery. There was no
Thank you so much, Berenice. Thank you so much.
How is evidence of PTSD generally?
I hope so too. I really do.
So really the bottom line in a forensic psychological evaluation is a change in functioning. That's what we're looking for. Again, I said we don't have a crystal ball. We're not wizards. We can't get into somebody's head. What we're looking for were their identifiable
Do you hear me now?
in the way the person engaged in their world. Were they able to keep a job? PTSD is an extremely disabling diagnosis. When a person has true PTSD, it is difficult for them to work. You'll see unemployment, job loss. It causes
This is reruns, by the way. This is all reruns.
There's divorce. There's isolation and estrangement from children, from family members. Extreme alcohol abuse, often a string of sudden DUIs when the person never had any before. They become homebound. They can't go to the store. They're certainly not going to events. They're not having success in their film career, usually. They're not exercising every day, pursuing their hobbies, being avid readers, obtaining level 3 sommelier training, having dinner parties with friends, speaking to public groups. Those are just indications of very high functioning. And when you're looking for a decrease in functioning over time, that is inconsistent with that decrease.
Dr. Hughes had suggested that perhaps Ms. Heard's PTSD was somehow triggered. What's your view on that?
I would say that it can't be triggered if PTSD isn't present.
So quite an interesting kind of a side light here on the damages issue and the causation, post-traumatic stress syndrome being
Dr. Curry, man.
Allegedly caused by Johnny Depp's actions against Amber Heard. Very unusual. And then you have, of course, the two experts battling out whether or not she was suffering from PTSD. By the way, Heather Locklear will be playing Shannon Curry when this becomes a movie. So obviously we heard from Dr. Shannon Curry and her criticism of Dr.
You stayed in the 80s, my man.
Dr. Hughes.
I understand you.
Dr. Hughes, Dr. Curry also testified that a victim of PTSD.
Oh, Mamma mia, no, please. I know, I can't do those reruns of those people. I just can't. I'm sorry. I can't do the reruns of those people. I refuse. Now I just want to hear the verdict. I don't want to hear these people talk ever again. Oh, man. Done. Actually, what Dr. Curry says makes like a gazillion ton of sense. If you have post-traumatic stress disorder, you don't engage in such high-functioning life, You just can't. Having friends, go to dinner, go to show, go to interviews, do stuff like training of sommelier. Like, this is really high-functioning life. If you have anxiety, I've had anxiety in my life, and I was already like home-ridden, So if you have post-traumatic stress disorder, that it's real. I'm ashamed that this woman talks this way, like saying such a thing, like post-traumatic stress disorder is something, okay, you can go out, do stuff or whatever. You probably can, but to have such a high-functioning life, it's really challenging. I mean, I told you, I had panic attacks in my life, and that already limited my day-to-day life at the time. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that a lot of people that went through the same stuff probably feels the same. And I'm talking about panic attacks. I'm not talking of post-traumatic stress disorder, which is much heavier in my opinion, much deeper. So it's really frightening what that woman was trying to sell us. Dutchman 24. I actually have to check. You mean like I have to check the song, or I have to sing the song? Because I don't know the song. I gotta check it out. Yeah, exactly. And then you can go partying in Coachella and take mushrooms. I mean, oh my God, that's so ridiculous. I mean, it will happen here if we see the jury, so we just have to wait and see.
We wanted to hear specifically, we needed to hear, I think the jury especially needed to hear, how did that impact her life, especially when we heard the information from Dr. Curry saying that it had to manifest itself in a certain way. And Dr. Hughes is saying, well, no, you're still able to go to the store, you're still able to exercise. So give specifics on how Amber's life specifically changed after leaving Johnny Depp. She was able to do this movie and did very well in the movie, and she seemed to function very well. So there weren't any examples or even witnesses, even from her sister, saying as a result of leaving or leaving that marriage, this is how Amber spiraled into a depression. We didn't hear any of that. So I think that did have an impact on the testimony of Dr. Hughes. Yeah,
I think it was a very interesting little route they took off to the side there that may or may not help the Amber Heard case. Hard to tell. The jury is now chewing that up, as well as everything else they've dealt with over the last 6 weeks. They're in that jury deliberation room. I would expect we're going to hear pretty soon whether or not they're going to continue into the evening or whether they're going to call it for the weekend. So stay where you are. We're going to come back, talk more about the case that has unfolded over those weeks and all of the drama included. We'll be back right after this. Stay where you are.
What?
Have we made an editorial?
What is happening here? It's happening. It's happening. What? It's happening.
And so as I continue, as you can now, to keep an eye on the camera outside the courthouse there, I don't know, I'm seeing some dwindling. I don't know if that's, I didn't do an official head count, but it looks to me like maybe some folks are drifting off thinking this is not going to happen today. So again, we will be here as long as the jury is there, and we will keep you posted. Both sides in this case, we talked about the finger, the Johnny Depp finger, that middle finger on his right hand, which I'm always very careful to demonstrate properly. Both sides called orthopedic surgeons to talk about that finger. So let's start with Dr. Richard Moore. Amber Heard called this physician.
So back to the glass. In the records that you reviewed.
Mamma mia, non si ama Maron. Mamma mia, non si ama Maron. Per favore. Mai più una sola parola. Never again one single word. Never again one single word I want to hear from the mouth of this man. Please. My ears literally have to cleanse from the sound of the voice of this man. Thank you. Gee, I almost heard 2 full seconds of that voice. Oh my God. Oof. Man, can't do that. Can't do that. The jury's back? Why, if the jury's back, this is gonna jump directly to that. We are on the right channel, so if the jury's back, this is what we're watching now is just reruns of the last couple of days. So I just muted because rotten hole. I just can't hear anymore. Rotten hole. Just can't do it anymore. Also because we have already heard all of this many times, so seriously, we don't need to hear that anymore.
Types of mechanisms can cause this sort of injury.
So this is a...
Okay, says again the dude, that's the fake specialist. Oh man, they brought so many charlatans on the freaking stand, like trying to fit the narrative. I mean, even the one that Johnny brought on, both parties pay those people. That we agree, that's fine. But the specialists that Johnny brought on, they were so much more professional, even in the cross-examination, And then you had the rotten hole, like sometimes doing the cross, or a lame doing the cross, or the other two dudes there. That they don't know, they're still virgin, those other two dudes, I'm pretty sure. Oh my God, I said that. But they were so much more professional, man, so much more professional.
His hand on the rail of the bar, and it smashed right where his middle finger was, and that basically ripped a chunk of his finger off the bottom, not the fingernail side. And Amber Heard's position is now he took a phone and was physically smashing the phone against the wall and therefore lost that piece of his finger. So the jury gets to decide which is the more reasonable. Karen Felicia Nance is here. Karen, this was kind of one of my pet peeves as I kept hearing this injury talked about as a slicing of the fingertip. He lost his fingertip. No, he had a big chunk gouged out of the bottom as a kind of very typical crush injury, as I've dealt with many times in civil cases involving machinery more often than not. But it's consistent with a crush injury. How do you think the jury's going to handle this dispute?
Well, I think that in any case, right, when we have to go to the doctor and we're given a diagnosis, for example, somebody always says it's necessary to have a second opinion.
Hold on a second, Karen. Karen, I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt here. It sounds like something is going on inside the courtroom, perhaps an early dismissal. Let's go in live in Fairfax, Virginia. For
What? What?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Since it's a long weekend for 3 days, you can sit down. Thank you. Since it's a long weekend for 3 days, I just want to come back in here and remind you of your responsibilities, which are extremely important, especially now that you're in the deliberation phase, okay? So just a reminder that you're not to read anything about this case. You're not to watch anything about this case. You're not to listen to anything about this case. This applies to television, newspapers, magazines, the internet, and any online sites. Further, you're not to read, watch, or listen to anything about the case on social media sites, any blogs or similar sites. In addition, you must not communicate with anyone about the case, whether in person, over the phone, by email, text, or instant messaging, or by any other electronic or non-electronic means. This includes your friends, family, co-workers, acquaintances, and strangers. And I also instruct you that you cannot do any research or make any inquiries about this case, whether online or by any other means. All right, so have a good weekend and peaceful weekend for 3 days, and you're coming back at 9 o'clock, is that correct? All right, we'll see you 9 a.m. At that time. You'll go straight to deliberations at that point. I won't bring you in here for that time, okay? All right, thank you.
So it's next Tuesday then. No, it's Monday. I don't understand. She said 3 days. 3 days is
Enjoy
Monday.
your weekend and just be close by at 9 o'clock on Tuesday, right?
Tuesday.
All right, thank you. All right, you too. Thank you.
Wow, Tuesday. Wow, we kind of expected this, right? We kind of expected this. All right, guys. You know what I'm gonna do? Alright guys, let's do one thing. I'm gonna stop this stream. I'm gonna do a little bit of research quickly. I'm gonna try to pull up some stuff, and then I can come back live. We do either a little bit of review of memes, a little bit of review of stuff like we were doing before. Because yeah, there's not much to do we can do here. So I stopped this live, and I try to get back in 15 minutes or so, half an hour at the most, so that we can start something different instead of this, because yeah, you know what I mean. No, I actually think it's not bad. I don't think it's bad, actually. I think it's a good thing. They have more time, because listen to me, if they can listen to the full length of those audios, it's much better. Much better. Because really there they have no doubts. But I think I think it was too little time to do this now, so. Alright guys, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop this stream now, and I'll come back like as you know, 20 minutes, half an hour or so, just to collect a little bit of information so that we can check something else. Otherwise here, you know, we keep going on for nothing. So Tuesday, and Tuesday it is. Alright guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much. But also, don't worry, I'm just coming back. I'm coming back like in 20 minutes or so, just to recollect a little bit, and we start a new live, okay? See you in a bit, to whoever wants to be part of checking some memes and other stuff, alright? Alright guys.